Welcome back to Flash Facts. I'm Tony from Comic Book Fans United, and in today's episode we're going to be breaking down the Fury of Firestorm. We continue the trend of borrowing from Firestorm comics this week with a pair of new characters, first starting with Henry Hewitt, better known as Tokamak. Now in the show he's portrayed as a scientist with a bit of a violent past, whose metahuman powers don't awaken until he comes in contact with Professor Stein. In the comics, however, he's a scientist who's trying to recreate the experiment that led to Firestorm. First on Lorraine Riley, creating the character Firehawk, and then on himself, which is when he took on the name Tokamak. Now, he died in a fight with Ronnie Raymond when his suit was breached, much like how Ronnie died in the storyline Infinite Crisis. But he came back through a very convoluted storyline involving clones to go after the second Firestorm, Jason Rush, ultimately dying again at the hands of Jason Rush and Firehawk. Next up, we have our second official Firestorm to the series in Jefferson Jackson. Now in the show he's portrayed as a former high school quarterback who was injured the night of the particle accelerator explosion, who then ultimately fuses with Professor Stein to become Firestorm. In the comics, however, I had to do a lot of digging to find anything about this character. What I was able to find though was that he's a friend of Ronnie Raymond's from high school, and he was basically his best friend. There were times where he was both referred to as Jefferson and then Jackson, and then ultimately it came down to that being his full name. There isn't much to the character. I was a little disappointed that they didn't go with the obvious Jason Rush storyline that felt set up in the first season, but at the same time, I do like the deep cut into the Firestorm mythos. Now the last new character I really want to talk about is King Shark, and I was totally caught off guard with this one. They set it up early in the episode where they have Patty talking about sightings of a giant shark in the city, and she finds teeth and has Barry analyze them, and then he ultimately comes back and says that they're not shark teeth. But then the episode closes with giant fucking King Shark, and he looks amazing! I can't believe that they actually were able to pull this off. I dare say he looks better than Gorilla Grodd did last season. Fantastic work. Now for those wondering who King Shark is, he's basically a giant humanoid shark. He's the son of the god of sharks, or the shark god. He's had a run on both the Secret Six and the Suicide Squad. I would recommend, though, everyone to go back and check Gail Simone's run of Secret Six, which featured him alongside with Bane, Catman, Scandal Savage, which is the daughter of Vandal Savage, Ragdoll, and a bunch of other weird reject villains from the DC Universe. It's a weird, crazy run of books. It's one of the absolute best. I believe it's Gail Simone's best work ever. Seriously, go check it out. But holy shit, King Shark! More, please! Moving on from new characters, let's just talk about a couple of quick plot points. First, starting with the fact that Francine left Central City roughly 20 years ago, and 8 months later she gave birth to a son. Now we're all presuming that this character is going to turn out to be Wally West, who's been confirmed for this season. Now, that would make Wally being 20 years old, much older than what he was when he first became Kid Flash, and much older than his current interpretation in the New 52, where they changed his race to better match the continuity of the show. Until he shows up, I really can't comment much more on this, but it's interesting to see how the Wally storyline is going to progress from here, given the fact that he's not that much younger than Barry Allen. Two quick pieces of dialogue that I didn't quite catch the first time reveal that A, they did name Henry Hewitt Tokamak in this episode when Caitlin is trying to figure out how to stop him, and secondly is the fact that he survived. He's the first villain to survive Season 2, and I actually was very relieved to see that. I was getting really annoyed that they were just so blatantly killing off villains for no good reason. Moving on to the more interesting flashbacks of this episode, let's start with a question though. Where exactly is Central City? Now in the comics, Central City is located in Missouri because it's based off of one of the Twin Cities. In the show though, we still don't really know. We get a view of a license plate in this episode, and I don't think this is the first one we've seen in the series, but this is the first one that I really noticed. And they don't actually answer that question still. They leave it pretty vague. All we really know though is that there is a train that runs from Central City to Star City, and Star City does still have that Seattle kind of vibe to it. Here's another question. What is wrong with the security system in Star Labs? Hell, in all of Central City. In fact, in all of the Arrowverse on the CW. You guys put in that line in the first episode, basically saying that the security system was upgraded and no one would be able to just walk in and out whenever they feel like. And then people continue to walk in and out whenever they feel like. It happened with Jake Garrick, it's happened now with the Earth 2 version of Harrison Wells. He then breaks into Mercury Labs and gets away. Come on guys, work on this. Towards the end of the episode, Professor Stein and Jefferson Jackson leave for Pittsburgh, much like how Stein and Ronnie left for Pittsburgh in the first season. He gives a line about going to meet with an associate of his to go and try to reach the full potential of Firestorm, where he couldn't with Ronnie, and that got me thinking. What if the next time we see Firestorm, he'll be able to use the ability to transmutate the properties of items? So, say for instance, there's a falling car coming out of the sky and there's people underneath that are in danger of getting hurt. Firestorm could change the chemical makeup of the car to turn into water so that those people survive. It's kind of really the only thing that we haven't seen from Firestorm at this point, and it's actually the one thing I really have been looking forward to seeing with that character. Overall, I thought this was an okay episode. It was actually much better on a second viewing. What I really liked was the deep cuts into the Firestorm comics, but I kind of feel like we need to stop doing that at this point now. Unlike Arrow, where they have to borrow from Batman and Teen Titans occasionally because the Green Arrow's villains roster isn't that deep, Flash has a slew of villains and a slew of side characters of his own. And I understand why they're doing it, and I actually appreciate it too, because not for nothing, I didn't know who Jefferson Jackson was, and it was actually nice to have to research a character like that. But going forward, I'd like to see more focus on Flash characters and Flash villains, because the past few episodes feel like they haven't really been about Barry. What really sold this episode though was the ending with King Shark and the return of Harrison Wells onto Earth 1. This one obviously coming from Earth 2. And what's really great about this is the fact that I don't have to sit here and wait 20 episodes for him to finally say, oh, my name's Eobard Thawne and I'm from the future. I don't know what the deal is with this Harrison Wells, and that's exciting, and that's what I really love about this season so far, is that anything that I have as a preconceived notion of characters really can come into question when you introduce the multiverse. And that wraps it up for this episode of Flashbacks. Now, I will be back next week with a brand new episode, but our main podcast that goes up on Sundays is going to be on a brief hiatus. Now, we don't know exactly when we'll be back, but it shouldn't be too long. We're basically kind of all over the place throughout the month of November, and we're just trying to hammer out a date on when to film next. I do believe there will be From the Shop reviews, so please check those out. And go visit geekade.com to go check out the amazing work that's done there. You can find all our stuff there, as well as Stone Age Gamer, where recently they did an episode about the 30th anniversary of Nintendo and sharing some of their favorite Nintendo memories. You can check out Tiger Driver 91, which is hosted by Carlos and Fredo, and they recently did an episode entitled The King of Jabrones, where they had a tournament ranking who is the worst wrestler of all time, who's the biggest jabroni of all time. You can check out Between Two Beards, again, another show by Carlos, Fredo, and Topher. You can check out episodes, Ring the Bell, Why I Love Wrestling, and a whole other bunch more stuff. Go check it out. Now, as always, please leave a like on this video if you've been enjoying Flashbacks. Subscribe to the channel so that way you stay up to date with our stuff. And share the links because it really helps us grow. Alright guys, I will see you next week. Bye.